Hi, hey everyone, I am Nolan from Movie Squad, and this is Star Wars Lit. And today we are going to be talking about Splinter of the Mind's Eye, written by Alan Dean Foster, the ghostwriter of A New Hope, released in 1978. So Splinter of the Mind's Eye is the very first Star Wars spin-off novel taking place in the Star Wars universe. And it was actually intended to be a low-budget sequel to A New Hope if A New Hope didn't do too well in the box office. But because it became one of the biggest box office successes in film history, the studio was much more confident in making Empire Strikes Back instead, thus this became a novel. Splinter of the Mind's Eye focuses on Luke and Leia as they end up stranded on the planet Minbin on their way to a rebellion conference. And on Minbin they meet Hala, an old woman with Force capability, who tells them about an ancient artifact called the Kyber Crystal, which would give anyone who is Force sensitive great powers over the Force. And then it's all of a sudden a race between our lead characters and the Empire over who can get the crystal first. So this honestly isn't that good of a book. It has some good things in it, but also has a lot of problems in it as well. But let me talk about the good things first. It's a fun adventure overall. If this weren't part of a broader universe, it would be a fun science fiction B movie from the 70s. But because it's part of the Star Wars universe, it kind of suffers from that. But another really good thing about this book, though, is Hala, the Force-sensitive old woman. She actually is a very engaging character. She's an old lady, so she kind of has that attitude about her, where I'm getting too old for this, but it's nothing too cliched, and she is very interesting. I believe this is her only appearance, which is kind of disappointing because she is a really interesting character, and I really like that there is a Force-capable character who isn't really a Jedi. I also really like the climax of this book, which is the confrontation between Luke, Leia, and Darth Vader, where Darth Vader comes in, and the way it's written, it gets really gritty and honestly pretty heart-pounding. And I was also shaking a little bit when I was reading that climax. But again, the book has a lot of problems. Okay, before I get into the problems, I would like to point out again that this is the very first spin-off novel of the Star Wars universe, and being the first spin-off novel, a lot of the information that the novel has is very irrelevant to honestly both timelines, both the canon timeline and the Legends timeline, which this book is a part of. Because a lot of the stuff that's written in here is very irrelevant. Is very irrelevant now. It's from irrelevant to sometimes kind of awkward. For example, so the way Alan Dean Foster writes the relationship between Luke and Leia. So Alan Dean Foster had absolutely no idea that Luke and Leia were going to end up being related in the later movies. So the way he wrote them in this book, he wrote them to have a lot of tension, and the tension ranges from fairly innocent to pretty weird. Particularly, there's a scene where they get mad at each other and then they just start fighting each other in a mud puddle. And it's just kind of weird and kind of out of left field. And it's just a little too awkward to be part of a Star Wars story. Using descriptive words, it's like how they feel about each other. It's just feeling awkward knowing that they're related, which again is a little unfair to this book, given that this book came before anything else. Because that later information was much better established than the information in this book, it kind of drags the book down. Another piece of information in this book that's pretty irrelevant is the Kyber Crystal. So in the book, the Kyber Crystal is explained as this ancient artifact which would give anyone holding it great powers over the Force, even though it's later established that the Force is more of a mental emotional power in which you gain your power over the control of your own mind and emotions. And also that the Kyber Crystal itself is not used to enhance the Force, but rather create energy weapons, particularly lightsabers. The way they also have Darth Vader in here. So Darth Vader is, if you see here, is on the cover of this book. He's only in the last 2 chapters though. And while again, that climax is pretty awesome, I would have liked to see more of him. And he's written very generically, like just generic evil villain that's only role is just to be evil, which again, first spin-off novel, but with all the other information gathered later on, it once again still drags this book very much down. Let's say that this is like part of either timeline. Does Darth Vader know at this point that Luke is his son, or is Skywalker just a very common surname in the expanded universe? See, there's like little stuff like that in this book. Very much familiar with the Star Wars universe, like myself, will just either be confused or annoyed. But I honestly was annoyed with this book because it's not really anger inducing. It's just at this point irrelevant. I think it should be part of the official canon timeline. No, I don't, because it honestly doesn't work as part of either timeline because of just of how irrelevant the information is in the book. I don't think there's any harm in reading it because it doesn't really contradict anything too hard. It is overall fairly pointless at this point. Alright, so I hope you really liked this video, and I will see you guys next time.